If you're anything like me, you're very ambitious, but you can get kind of overwhelmed with the size of your own goals, as well as just keeping up with regular life. Because the world is getting faster and faster and busier with technology and AI and just careers and normal life, that it can be very overwhelming, right? And especially if you want to build projects and make an impact or do something exciting and that you're passionate about, it can get really difficult. And on top of that, we have so much digital content and social media that's directly engineered to get you addicted, to be polarizing, and to take your attention away from you, to take your time, take your attention, and ruin your attention span and your ability to focus and actually function. So this is why I believe that the RoboHumanism is really important. So in this video, I'm going to explain a little bit about where it is coming from, what it's about, what the goal is, and also how you can start applying it. I'll go over some frameworks that you can see behind me already on the whiteboard. Don't worry if it seems a little bit too much and confusing. I'll take you through it one by one, explain exactly how you can apply it into your life. And so you can have a balance. You can design your life for this modern world. So that's the goal of RoboHumanism. The goal is really to ultimately help create a healthy relationship between humanity and technology. And these days, the approach is really on an individual personal level of how you can design your own life and your own lifestyle so that you can not only survive during these times, but you can also thrive. You can work on your own projects. You can keep crushing it in your careers without burnout and anxiety and all of these other challenges. So where I'm coming from, I used to have severe social anxiety and depression. And when I was 13 years old, I was getting bullied and my environment at home was really tough as well. And I found the rescue in two things. One, I started learning software engineering. When I was 13, 14 years old. But also more importantly, I Googled how to be happy. And that path led me to discover practical psychology and neuroscience, really just learning things that were exciting about the brain and about the human mind and the human body as well, and applying them into my own life because I was suffering and I was really close to taking my own life. And so I had one path going for me that was the mind, right? Mind and neuroscience and psychology. And then I had software engineering. I ended up going on to a robotics and engineering school where I was quite literally programming the robotic arms and automated assembly lines while in the background processing and combining all of this with the psychology and neuroscience. And that's where this unique idea, this unique philosophy came from. And how it all came together as I was reading books and watching trainings and consuming all of this knowledge and doing my schoolwork and doing projects for the assembly lines and such, that I started realizing that, wow, life is kind of like a video game. And we as humans, we are kind of like the biological robots, right? I started seeing a lot of similarities between how the software worked that we were programming and how the brain worked as well. The brain is kind of like an amazing computer. And so I started putting all these together, and out of that came all of these frameworks, and I kept it hidden for a very long time. The first time I ever came up with the name RoboHumanism, and I started writing first text and putting these frameworks into some text and writing, was back in 2020. At the edge of 2019 and 2020, and I only started coming up with this fully at the end of last year, because I finally see that now it's the time. But over time, I've been already using it in the background, not as these are the RoboHumanist frameworks and this is how you design your RoboHumanist lifestyle for the modern world. It was more like that was in the text, but it was more like I just helped people with anxiety. I just helped people overcome high functioning anxiety. And, some people came to me because they were just so anxious. They were crushing it at work, but they were so anxious that they couldn't sleep at night. So I helped them, become sober and actually go to sleep at night. Other people came because they had social anxiety. Other people just couldn't control their habits and they just ended up spending hours and hours on their phone. watching content, and I fell into that trap as well for a while. So some people came to that, some people wanted to start businesses on the side, and they felt overwhelmed and they were overthinking a lot. So it was a big mix of variety, and that's really where I'm coming from. So without further ado, let's jump into the first framework, which is, we'll start really simple. It's going to be the RoboHumanist, what I call Trinity, right? So just like I realized that there's the mind, body, and spirit, right? You've probably heard that before. So when I was processing this myself, it really started feeling like my body is like the hardware, and then my mind is like the software, and I'm the spirit, the consciousness, right? But like I'm like the operator or the player who can decide and control the body and the mind. But sometimes it seems like the body and the mind is kind of acting on its own, like I don't have any influence, and we'll get over that a little bit later in what actually controls you. But sticking to the Trinity at first, so I started coming up with this really simple framework, 3 main principles that then we can derive and we can move on to everything else. So the first principle is to take care of your hardware. Take care of your body. If your body is healthy and well fed and well rested and all of that, then everything else becomes much easier and simpler. The second part is to update your software. Sometimes in our own mind, in our own programming, in our own software, there's bugs and there's things that maybe you don't want anymore. So you need to update the software by learning and unlearning as well. But more importantly, you want to follow the principle of being the player. Because too many times we slip into the mode of thinking that we're just the body, or we're just the mind, or we're just the combination. But we lose our ability to control and influence. We lose our what I call conscious power to directly control the human body, the body that we have and the mind that we have. So think about it this way. I'm recording this on my phone. You may be watching this on your phone, or you have your phone nearby, right? If you look at the phone, you pick it up and you don't open the screen yet, right? What you're holding in your hand, that's the hardware, that's the body itself, right? Now, if you open it up and then you see the screen, what's on the screen, you see the apps and you see all of that, right? What you see in there, that's pretty much the software. Those are the apps and those are the programs and the operating system that's running the whole phone, right? But if you just turn it off and you leave it on the table and it's not programmed in any way just yet, right? You didn't do anything with it. It's just gonna sit there and do nothing. As soon as you pick it up and you give it commands, you press the buttons, you tell it what to do, it will start using the hardware and the software combined together. The hardware and the software communicate together, right? And it creates the output of what you want. And that's, again, exactly how our minds and bodies work. The only issue is that our brains are such good computers that they start acting completely on their own. Just like the phone, if you set an alarm, for example, and you leave it there, guess what? That alarm will ring because you programmed the alarm to ring at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Just like that, your mind and your body is also programmed. So if you program it to say, if I'm anxious, then I need a phone, I need to scroll, then every time you're going to start feeling a little bit anxious, your body and mind will go, I know what to do, we need to pick up the phone. And you don't have any say in it. You, the player, in that moment, are not in control. Haven't you ever been there where you feel like you're just observing yourself, being like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I can see myself and feel myself doing this thing, but I don't really want to do it. I'll give you an example. Back in 2022, I was working at the airport as a baggage handler, right? And one day, as I was working there, I was in the basement, and I just got into the habit of every time I had a break, I would just walk across the basement, and it was maybe like 300 meters walk, right? So it took me like 2, 3, 5 minutes to walk across the full basement to the vending machine and buy a sweet snack. And then afterwards, I hired a coach who was like a productivity and health coach. So he said, you gotta stop the sugar, man. Every single break, you can't have a sweet snack, right? And so the first week after that, I would just have a break. And as soon as I had a break, my body and my mind had an impulse, and I just started walking over across the basement to buy the snack. And I remember seeing myself and trying to fight myself from the back of my mind, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. My body already decided that I'm just going to go pick up that snack. And that's what I did. And then I ate it and I felt like shit about myself. This is why. Because we are so often, we are controlled by what we can call the default mode rather than the command mode. You see, in the command mode, you, the player, are in control. But in the default mode here, only your subconscious mind is in control. You can see that you have no input here, and your subconscious mind will directly determine what state you are in, meaning how you feel, your mental, emotional state. That state directly determines that action. So I felt a little bit bored, or I felt hungry, or I felt a little bit stressed about what's going to be the next task or building my business. And that action I took was walk across the basement. And as a result, I felt like crap about myself, and I was feeding my body with some toxic stuff that I didn't really want to eat, right? So my subconscious programming completely took over. The player went away. I wasn't able to control it whatsoever. And my subconscious brain took over. It created a specific state that created a specific action, and that created a specific result that I did not want, right? So put in very simple terms, this is how our brains operate when we move from the big Trinity, from taking care of your hardware and updating your software and being the player. Now the question becomes, how can I be the player if my subconscious mind just pulls me into default mode and just so happens? So first, you got to understand that this mode is actually really amazing. It exists because it conserves energy. It helps us operate on a smoother level. The only problem is that we did not consciously program our subconscious mind. Whatever is in there got in there because of our environment or because of how we got raised, what our parents told us. That's the issue. So the goal becomes change and reprogram your subconscious mind to how you want it to be, rather than how it just happens to be right now because of how you grew up or what you've been through and what happened. All right. So that's where we have to start practicing switching into command mode. You can think of this as kind of like a muscle, right? There's two muscles, or just like do a curl, there's two muscles really in play here. One muscle is pulling your hand here, and then one muscle is letting it go back in a smooth way. Or if you do a pull-up, there's different muscles that help you pull back, pull up, and then push up. And then push, right? There's like a pull-push muscles. Different groups, they work together, but a little bit different. It's kind of the same. So we need the two muscles. One muscle is to be able to switch from default mode to command mode. And then another one is to stay in command mode for long enough and in repetition enough, over and over and over again, enough until the command mode fully reprograms the default mode as well. And then I'll give you an example what happens, right? So first, what would I do now? If now knowing all this, this is exactly what I would do to change my habit of going to the vending machine and picking up the Snickers bar, for example, right? So I saw myself immediately getting into the default mode, and I just couldn't get myself out of it. Whatever I did, I couldn't, because I didn't have the right strategy, right? I didn't know what I was doing. Now, what I would do and I've also practiced this muscle, by the way, to switch into command mode, what I would do is exactly this, right? And that wakes up the brain. It says, oh, whoa, what happened? This is weird. This is unusual. Okay, now I'm in control, and I can turn around and just go back and don't ever make it to the vending machine, right? That little muscle there is controlled in part and in other ways by the prefrontal cortex and by the AMCC, anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Butchering the words, fancy words. Two parts of your brain in the front here, and one right behind it, that help you decide exactly what you want to do, rather than being controlled by the subconscious emotional brain, right? So then, now I've practiced one little rep, and the more I do it again and again, I will have the power to, anytime I catch myself being in this default mode, to be able to switch into the command mode and actually decide on what I want to do. And then the second part that we want to do is, okay, I want to be able to rewrite it as well. So I want to know how this even happened. Why is this happening? Okay, let's say I'm bored, and that's why I go pick up the snack. So my brain thinks, when you're bored, go pick up a snack. Okay, so I need to change, right? That little piece of code, that line of code in my brain, I need to change that to, if I'm bored, reply to messages, for example, right? Or meditate, or read, or really whatever else you want to do. And the more times you switch from default mode into command mode and you practice the new habit, it will help reprogram this. There's other ways how you can maybe accelerate it a little bit. There's hypnotherapies and visualizations and all these. We won't go into those in detail right now, but that's really in short how it is, all right? Now, I'm going fast. I know this is a video, but yeah, I'm really feeling it, so this is great. In the command mode, what we end up being as, right, the player on top here now is in control, and we can directly influence our conscious mind, which then filters through our subconscious mind, and that influences our state, how we feel, and mental emotional state, and that influences our action, and that creates the result. So in this case, okay, I would shake my body and be like, oh, wake myself up. Okay, now my conscious mind is online. Notice that the conscious mind isn't even there. Now my conscious mind is online. I can command it. I can say, no, we're not going to the vending machine. Turn around, go back, and meditate, for example, because maybe you're stressed. Okay, that's going to change. It's going to create different state, right? Especially even if I just shake like that, that's already going to create a different state. Now I'm taking a different action, and now I'm getting a totally different result because my body is healthier, my mind is stronger, everything is going in the right direction, and I feel much better about myself, and I didn't just do something that I never wanted to do. Now, this is all nice. Hopefully this is making sense. This is how we kind of operate, right? This is how we reprogram how we function. But the challenge is, this is really difficult. I can talk about it, I can show you, I can, give you more examples and stuff. It will still be very difficult. And in the end, it just doesn't happen by itself. And the reality is, moving on to here, how we actually level up, or how we actually reprogram our brain, how we actually change what's in our subconscious mind, how we actually practice being in command mode more, so that we do what we want to do rather than we do what we don't want to do, okay? This is it. Very simple, 4 stages of what I call level up loop, right? Because there's many of them. Our life is like a series of these level up loops, and they have 4 simple stages. First stage, at first, we kind of go through, maybe life is good and nothing is really happening. I'm happy, everything's fine, I'm cruising, and I'm just excited to see what's next. Or maybe I have an exciting idea and I want to start something new. Either one, that's stage 1. That's a lot of the times you will find yourself there, right? Then stage number 2 is after you've started working on the new idea, or you were just cruising along and guess what? Life happened. Big challenge, unexpected thing. Maybe you got let go of in your job, or maybe you lost somebody in your life, or maybe you have a health issue. Whatever it is, life happens, all right? I'm not here to just tell you think positive, and meditate that everything's gonna be great. No. In life, things go wrong all the time. People, or maybe somebody breaks up with you, or breaks your heart, or business partner betrays you. Oh my God, so many things go wrong in life all the time, right? Maybe there's a flood. I'm not wishing you any bad luck, but chances are that if you live life long enough, things are gonna go wrong. So that's phase number 2. And this is where it starts to be hard. It's not too difficult yet, but maybe I started a new idea and I'm starting to see like, okay, well, yeah, this is going to be a problem. I didn't think this is going to be a problem. And it starts to get really hard. Now, we've all heard the saying, right? Things get worse before they get better. And that's stage 3. Stage 3 is when it's like the most difficult. You don't want to do anything else but give up. If you're struggling with mental health, this is where I used to be, right? This is where maybe suicide starts coming up, or this is where most people give up on their business. This is the times of the hardest times. This is where most people give up, quit, start complaining, and get really jaded, right? And they get stuck in here. And their life then becomes a series of tragedies, and they get stuck down here. Now, if you don't get stuck and you keep going, following the level up loop, you keep grinding here. This is the really tough part where you really have to push through and figure stuff out, and you have to learn new things, and you have to do things that you've never done before, for example, right? And eventually you get to stage 4, which is the new level. You start building momentum again, everything's great, and you're up here and you're better off than you were before. No matter whether it was a good idea, it was a new idea, it was a challenge. At the end, you're going to be better off than when you were. And then guess what happens? Maybe you're going to stay up here for a while, and then another loop. And that life goes on, right? All the way through our lives, it's a series of level up loops. And sometimes you will be in one area of life, you will be up here and you'll be cruising, and in another area of life, you'll be down here. We'll get to that later with the lifestyle matrix of how you can actually start designing this and how you can audit your life, and start with the lifestyle design that RoboHumanism offers to see what you need to start working on first. But before, I also want to quickly touch on the cycle of personal growth. Okay, so they go very well hand in hand together with the level up loop. While you're in these phases, like I mentioned, you have to learn something new. You have to do things that you've never done before. You have to do 2 types of work. And also for how it relates to this nice little diagram, there's 2 types of work that we have to do to fully level up and to fully grow as human beings, as we grow with our bodies and our minds, and also as players, right? So the one pillar is internal work. This is where you work on your beliefs, your emotions, your mindset, the internal stuff that's happening in there. You can think of it as this is where you're doing work with the subconscious mind, right? And then we have the external work, which is where you go out there and you build habits and you do things, and that's where you do the things you've never done before. That's where you apply discipline. That's where you apply courage, right? And you step through the fear. For example, if you want to overcome social anxiety, which is what I've helped many people with these kind of frameworks to this point, or let's just say general anxiety, the internal work is, okay, why is the anxiety there? How is it coming up? Can you do meditations? Can you develop coping strategies? Can you do those kind of things? And the second part, to fully get rid of anxiety, especially the social kind, is that you have to just go out there and get good at social skills, get good at talking to people, get good at being on camera or being on stage, or really whatever it is that you actually want to do in the end, right? So that's how you do it. You actually go out there and you practice little by little. So if your goal is to be on stage one day, right, but you're so anxious you can't even you can't even ask for a croissant at a cafe, right? Then you probably don't go from where you are to exactly where you want to be immediately, but you apply more of the video game mindset. You level up, level by level, right? Again, you go through these levels multiple times. So maybe one level is you just start asking people for time, and then maybe you start joining meetups, and maybe first online and then in person, right? And then you, little by little, every little step is a little bit uncomfortable, and eventually you arrive, maybe months or years later, you arrive to like, wow, oh my gosh, I'm on stage in front of 10,000 people and I feel great. And I used to not be able to ask for a croissant a couple years ago. That's the power of, if you combine internal and external work. I have to point this out because a lot of the times people get either stuck in discipline and push, and that's where burnout comes in, or they get stuck in the internal work, which is like the talk therapy style, where you just sit on the couch and you just talk about it, or you think about it, and nothing actually changes. Nothing actually happens in the real world. You gotta do both, all right? And lastly, we get to the lifestyle matrix, okay? We start designing your life. This is where we audit. This is where we look at, okay, what is it that you need, and what is going really well in your life right now, and what is going maybe not so well right now, and how do we do it, okay? So there are 8 areas of life in the RoboHumanist lifestyle perspective. So I'll quickly go over them and I'll explain a little bit of what they mean, right? So first, we have the hardware, right? That's your body. We already talked about that. We have the software, which is the mind. We already talked about that. Let's say, I like to sometimes think of it as a type of health, right? So we have hardware is the physical health. Software, we have the mental health. Player, we have the spiritual health, meaning how strong is your conscious spiritual power? How strong is your presence? How strong is your ability to control yourself and stop yourself from doing things that you don't want to do, for example, right? That's the spiritual strength. Then we have network or social health. How powerful are your relationships? How good are your connections with other people? Very important area of life, all right? Then we have mission, or in other words, career health. How happy are you with your job? How happy are you with what you're doing? Are you depressed and only doing it for money? Or are you loving it and having an amazing time, right? So your mission in life, this is where contribution comes in and things like that as well. But mainly your career, and contribution can be in there as well. Then area number 6 is resources. This can be considered like financial health. Also, time can slip in there of like how good are you with your time, because time and money are the 2 main resources that we really have to work with, along with energy and things like that. But those, let's say, fall into, but those maybe fall into other areas. So really you can think of time and money in terms of your resources. Then we have the interface, which is your technology health. This is the one thing that's super unique for RoboHumanism, because it's a new age, it's the modern world, and we really need to focus on how is our health with technology. And for most people that I talk to, including me for a long time, this part is actually one of the most challenging, right? Because we are addicted to our phones. We can't go to bed until 2 a.m. because we're scrolling on the phone. We wake up immediately and we check Slack or email in anxiousness. That's just a few clear signs that your interface or your technology health relationship with technology isn't the best. And then we have the base, or your environment health. This is your apartment, or this is where you live. How happy you are you there? How good is it for you? How organized it is? Because our environment has a big impact. Our environment has a big impact on us. And that's where it's really important to pay attention to as well. So we're getting to the end here. I covered a lot. I covered 5 frameworks. I covered kind of where it comes from and what it is and who I am as well. And I really want you to start applying this because it's very important. So first, what I would encourage you to do is look at the lifestyle matrix, okay? You can do a little bit of an audit. So just rate every single area of your life in these 8 categories into, is this 1 to 10, right? Or 1 to 5, depending on what you want. But if you want a little bit more clarity, you can do 1 to 10. If you want to do it a little bit faster, do 1 to 5. So 1 to 10, rate your hardware, your software, your player, your network, your mission, your resources, your interface, and your base. That will give you a great idea on where you are and what you're doing really well with, and then what you might need to work on more. Then, after you have your lifestyle matrix, I want you to think about what are the things that you have to do to improve the main area. Like, so this will help you kind of analyze what is the main area that if you improve, everything else will start to improve as well. So let's say for a lot of people, it's technology, right? Okay, so then I want to improve, I want to start spending less time on my phone, because 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day just scrolling on videos, it's too much. And it's really impacting my money. It's impacting how happy I am with my career. It's impacting my relationships. It's impacting my body because I'm not sleeping super well. It's impacting my mental health. Everything else is getting worse because my technology health isn't where it could be or where it should be, right? So then we have to start coming up with ideas. Okay, how can you improve it, right? Well, let's say maybe I want to start going to sleep at a certain time, and what I would encourage, let's say I want to have a 1 hour in the morning where I have no phone, no technology, and 1 hour at night before I go to sleep when I have no technology. Digital sunrise and digital sunset. Then you have to start applying the cycle of personal growth, right? You have to enforce it, and you also have to back it up with the internal work of why do you even do that? What are the emotions that come up? And you have to work with both of these to change that habit. Keep in mind that you will probably go through these 4 stages, especially when it comes to technology. It's very close to addictions. Some people say we can't call it addiction. Some people say no, it's directly an addiction. For me, it was definitely an addiction. So I fully went through these stages where I had the great idea that I want to quit or that I want to have a healthy. I'm going to make another video about cheap addictive digital entertainment and how I quit. But in short, I went through all of these 4 stages. This is where I had the biggest withdrawal symptoms and I really hated my life. And now I'm much better off than I was before. And then you want to keep this in mind that every single time you have to switch from the default mode to command mode to actually control yourself fully, and overall make sure that you are keeping your hardware, your body healthy, that you're updating your software all the time, and that you are being the player as much as you can. You're being present, you're being in control of your life, you're directing and designing of what you want to do rather than just reacting to whatever is already happening. That's where most anxiety and unhappiness and struggle in life comes from, because we just accept that we are stuck here in these 2 and our current life situation, rather than being the player and saying, no, I'm going to do something different about this. I'm going to design my life in this way. I'm going to do an audit. Okay? So this is how you do it. Now, the challenge with this becomes, okay, great. You might think, Ondra, this is awesome stuff. I took some notes. I'm going to do an audit, but I'm so overwhelmed and so stuck in my own life that I can't even maybe I don't even have the time for this. Or maybe I can't think clearly of what I need to do to improve that area of life that I really need to improve. Or maybe all of the areas of life are completely gone. And to that, I will say that if you don't have the time and you don't have the energy, you have to take the time and the energy. And that's exactly why I designed a 7-step process that I call RoboHumanist Reboot, that's designed to help reset your nervous system, audit your life in a little bit of a higher level, not exactly all of these 8 levels, but more of a higher overview. And you can think about it as like, if you're living your life and you feel like you're just stuck in a maze or stuck in the jungle and you're just going through it and you're just trying to figure it out, trying to survive, how can you plan? How can you create? How can you start designing your life? How can you start overriding your programming? And how can you start being more in control of your mind and your body if you're just so stuck in the jungle and you're just trying to survive? Well, that's exactly what this is for. You can think of it as like you remove yourself from the maze or the jungle and you put yourself on a big peak, right? Where you can see the jungle from a bird's eye view and you have a nice overview of, okay, I know that's happening. And it gives you the peace of the overview. And then once you come back, you have the clarity to go and do what you need to do. So that's exactly what I designed, and I'm looking for a few people a week usually to go through this process with me on a call personally. So if you were interested in doing this RoboHumanist Reboot process with me, it takes usually between 30 to 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how fast we can go and how we do it. So we can moderate on what your situation in life is. We can run through it a little bit more quickly, or we can go a little bit deeper. So it fits into your schedule and you will walk away with feeling calmer, more in control, and you will have a nice audit and you will have a clearer path of what you need to do and where you need to go to take yourself to the next level. So find the link down below in the comments or in the descriptions, and there will be like a link to book to apply, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. Great job, congratulations for making it all throughout all of this video. If you did, then that means two things: we are kindred spirits, we're obsessed and like determined to make our lives better, and also we understand that the world is changing and something new needs to happen. We need something new. We can't just rely on the old. When we have all of this new AI and all of this new technology coming in, we have to change, we have to evolve, we have to make sure that we're staying on track. All right, let's do this. Looking forward to seeing you. If you're not ready for to speaking with me one-on-one yet, go check out other videos. I'll be doing more breakdowns. You can subscribe to my newsletter where I also do more deep dives as well, and how you can apply this for yourself. And I'll see you in the next one.